Hi, I'm David Bohmiller, the founder of Inevitable.com, and today we're going to talk a little bit about change management, specifically the change management process. And where there are so many different methodologies for change, the one I'd like to focus on today is Kotter's 8-step model for change. Now, Kotter's model consists of 8 different steps, and one of the nice things about this model is that the 8 steps can either be sequential or they can overlap. And so as you become more and more familiar with this process, either individually or within your organization, you may find that your levels of comfort allow you to sort of mix and match or jump back and forth between some of the different steps. What I usually suggest to coaching clients and to consulting clients is to familiarize yourself with the steps first so that you can use them where the start of one is dependent upon the close of the one prior before then moving on to sort of advanced implementation. Now, the first step in the process is creating urgency. And so, where this is important is in a lot of organizations, it's usually one person or one department who feels the pain of some sort of obstacle or tension. And they immediately sense or say, hey, this has to change. It can't continue in this fashion. But if that same need for change hasn't been communicated to other departments or to other tiers of the organization, and it hasn't been felt, at least in theory, if not in reality, then it's going to be very difficult to implement change throughout an organization. And the reason that that's important is because change, even though it might directly impact one department or one person, it's really going to have an effect that cascades throughout the organization at some point. Now, once that sense of urgency has been established, the second step in Kotter's change management process has to do with building a guiding coalition. So let's say that an executive within an organization was the one who originally felt the pain and said, okay, this has to change. We're going to do something about it. And they announce, hey, guess what? This coming Monday, we're changing. A lot of times that isn't received well by internal audience members, external audience members. It's too authoritative, and the people who are going to feel the brunt of the change haven't yet had an opportunity to participate or to provide their perspective. So, in building a guiding coalition, you're building a diverse network of people, regardless of their length of tenure with the company, regardless of their role, whether they're an individual contributor or maybe a manager. Their formal title doesn't matter as much as it does that there is a diverse network of people from the different departments within the company so that your frames of reference in contributing to what the plan will become is something that can be embraced by that wide audience. And so now that you have a network of people who are going to act as your representatives for each department, the next step, the third step, is developing your vision for change. So, what is success going to look like when we finish this project? And part of the need for having that diverse group is that success could look different whether you're in sales, it could look different for somebody in marketing, it could look different for executives and financial team members than it does for those who are working in the warehouse or who are working in data entry. So each person is going to have a different description of successful change. And so that's why you want this inclusivity of hearing all of these voices of people from different departments so that no one perspective is left out and that the greatest number of people are going to benefit from a successful project outcome. So those first 3 steps really are the bricks in the foundation of the change management process. And a lot of times companies will mishandle moving into Kotter's fourth step, which is communicating the vision. They've invested time, they've invested resources in the first three steps, and now they think, okay, we've got our plan in place. We know exactly what we're going to do to reach this vision or this destination that we have in mind. But for all of those people that were not part of those conversations, even though they might have had a representative from their department, you still need to take some time to communicate that vision and to really develop their understanding of what the change process is going to look like so that they feel a sense of ownership of the process, that they want to contribute and want to participate, because not everybody is going to be convinced by the same things. And some people may not feel the need for change at all. Now, even though step one had to do with creating that sense of urgency, for those team members who are still on the fence and don't really see the need for change, this is where your communication is going to be important. Some companies will choose to announce the need for change or the results of their guiding coalition's development of strategy in a single email or maybe in video conference. But one of the most effective ways to communicate change is going to be to make use of as many different platforms as possible. And that could include in-person messaging, maybe some of it's through video conference. You always want to have the ability for your team members who are receiving this messaging to follow up with their department managers, with executives in different capacities. So in some cases, they might respond in email. It might be worthwhile to have a representative from the Human Resources Department hold small group meetings as well, and maybe even some anonymous surveys. And that way, people can feel as though they're part of the collective change, and that if they do have any concerns, that those concerns are being heard. Now, following the communication of the vision, you would move in Kotter's change management process to the fifth step. And so this has to do with empowering action outside of just the managers who might hold sort of a formal title or formal authority. You don't always want to wait for change to happen, especially when people are on board with supporting that change. So you may have frontline workers who don't hold a formal title, who you might consider leaders. Leadership and management, they are different, and there are benefits to both. Now, it's great if your managers are leaders and recognized as leaders within your organization, but it can be of benefit and a competitive advantage when you have people who don't hold that managerial title, who still feel that sense of ownership and can be a representative of what positive change can be for the others within their department. Now, after creating the environment where it's okay for your employees to take action and they feel supported to do so, you also want to look for opportunities to generate short-term wins. And so there are certain behaviors that are going to be helping to build positive momentum towards that desired vision, towards that desired project outcome. And so when you look within your teams, within your facilities for behaviors that mirror exactly what you want to celebrate those publicly, provide that recognition, and then give reminder messaging on how those behaviors are in alignment with the objectives of the project so that your team members can see, okay, this is why this is important. This is how it's contributing. And even though we haven't reached our destination yet, now I can see the connecting of the dots and how we are getting closer to what we say we want to achieve. After generating and celebrating short-term wins and providing those reminders, you'll move on to the seventh step, which is to keep going to make it sustainable. So here, as you're progressing through the project timeline, you're getting new information from your internal stakeholders, you're getting new information from external stakeholders, and so your change process has a change process. And so you want to make sure that as a sponsor of change, you're receiving this feedback, but it's not just falling on deaf ears, that you're doing something with it and you're communicating back to your audience that, okay, this is what we've heard from you. Here's how we're going to change and we're going to pivot so that we can get even closer to our destination in a more efficient manner. And then the eighth step in Kotter's change management process is making it stick. So we want to make sure that the time and the resources that you've invested in this one change project become things that you can draw off of for future change projects so that it becomes part of the organizational culture. There's been learning from the successes and from the failures. There's been reflection. And as it was important to have that diverse network as part of the guiding coalition, we want to stick with that framework so that lots of different departments can learn and that those who are directly tied to recruiting new team members and to training new team members are helping to use this organizational knowledge to introduce the newest team members to the culture that you've created, and they continue to work with existing team members so that you can also focus on things like employee retention. Now, when all of those different areas are sort of working in harmony, that's where your organization can build and can maintain a competitive advantage, and so that their business and their financial footing will all be something that is sustainable for the long term. So that is Kotter's eight-step change management process in a nutshell. Thank you for visiting us today. For more information like this on change management, on leadership, and organizational communication, please visit our website, inevitable.com, and be sure to subscribe to our newsletter while you're there.